The European Le Mans Series makes a welcome return in 2022 for more thrills, spills and high entertainment and potentially drama as well over the next 6 races of the season. We begin, as we have done in previous years, at the 4 Hours of Le Castellet here at Circuit Paul Ricard. What, about an hour, 45 minutes drive to the east of Marseille in this great part of the world, and we've picked a perfect weekend for weather as well. GTs, LMP3s, LMP2s, all about to qualify ahead of tomorrow's 4 Hours of Le Castellet, which is an 11 o'clock start local time. And I have to say, particularly the grid for GTs is fit to bursting. 12 of them about to qualify in a short, sharp 10-minute session. My name's Johnny Palmer, back on board for another season of the European Le Mans Series, as is the gentleman next to me, Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com. And it's set to be another cracker.
It most certainly is. Good afternoon, everybody, from a glorious Le Castellet circuit and a glorious collection of a dozen GTE cars about to take to the track. Porsches, Ferraris and Aston Martins set to take part in this session, with some returning stars, some new friends, some old friends coming back as well. This is the 32 Rinaldi racing car. Pirouette, Nicola Veroni and Mimo Gidley from the United States making a very welcome debut in the European Le Mans Series, one of a couple of US-based stars that are adding a bit of transatlantic colour. There's the radar station on the mountain overlooking the circuit. They're just keeping an eye on us, making sure that all is well. As we sweep back to the, well, really evocative pit building here. There's something about that Paul Ricard text on the top of that building, Johnny, that just lights the motorsport fires, isn't there?
Well, this place has existed since the mid-70s, celebrated its 50th anniversary just last year or the year before, and it's changed a lot since it first broke ground in those early days, and it has remnants of the fact that it was a test track, and only a test track for a number of seasons, with all the high friction tarmac, the blue and red striping. But it is a Grand Prix venue once again, we must remember, Grade 1 circuit, and has been the home to a European Le Mans Series round for a good number of years now.
The one yellow Ferrari, and we saw the reason why it's the one yellow Ferrari just a moment ago. We'll come back to that. The number 60 Iron Lynx car, Claudio Schiavone, Matteo Cressoni and Davide Rigon. There are the 2 Proton competition Porsches, 2 of 3 Porsches this season. The third one you can just see the back end of. This is aboard the Iron Lynx 83 car. Very bright pink, not going to be difficult to misidentify that car. Rahal Fry, Michel Gatting and Sarah Bovey back for more. This is the 93 Proton competition car with Zach Robichon. That's the other of the transatlantic travellers. Ricard Leitz and of course Michael Fassbender. This his 3rd season now of the European Le Mans Series, but it will be interrupted for Michael's debut at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and that's back in June.
The 77 car was fastest in the second of the 2 free practice sessions we've had within GT, from the Ferrari 57, the car guy entry, and then another Porsche. But we've got all 3 manufacturers actually have been featuring in the top 4 positions. So balance of performance, always a bit of a moot topic, I suppose, but it looks okay at this stage, and it will alter through the course of the season as well because of success ballast, which is added and taken away depending on how well you're going in the championship.
One of 2 Aston Martins in the field. This is the 95 car, John Hartshorn with Enrique Chavez and Johnny Adam in the number 95 car. Not entered this year under the TF Sport banner, but Oman Racing with TF Sports, the first ever Emirati, indeed was about to say the first ever Asian team in the European Le Mans Series, but that's not quite true because there's another one which we'll get to when we see that car. This is the 5.7 kilometre circuit. This is the configuration being used for the whole weekend, which of course the massively long Mistral straight down into
9,
flat out seam corner.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 LMGTE qualifying session has started. Please remind drivers they need to respect track limits.
So 3 sectors to the lap. The first starts at the start-finish line and heads round to just about the exit of turn 5 at Virage du L'Hôtel. Then through 6 and 7 is the start of the second sector, down to probably 2/3 of the way down the Mistral Straight. No chicane in action, as Graham's described, for this meeting. We haven't had that actually for the last 3 years or so. And then the final sector begins quite a bit just before the braking area for Senior Corner, but includes the whole of Senior, Beausset, Virage du Lac and Virage du Pont at the end of the lap as well, and across the line. So it's quite a long sector, that final one, and very tight in technical. Important to get that one right, but equally, if your car is set up for straight line speed, you're going to pick up an awful lot of time in the middle sector on the Mistral.
It is Michael Fassbender aboard the number 93 Proton competition car. Bronze drivers, I think, only in this session from memory. It is in order. The Absolute Racing number 18 car, we'll see that car later, Andrew Haryanto. Memo Gidley in the number 32 Rinaldi car, Christian Hoek in the 33 Rinaldi car. Great to welcome them to the GT class. Duncan Cameron in the 55 Spirit of Race car. It is Takashi Kimura in the Castle Racing car guy entered Ferrari. Iron Lynx fields Claudio Schiavoni in the number 60 Ferrari, the bright yellow car. 66 JMW Motorsport, Giacomo Petrobelli. That car not yellow this year. It is a silvered red and very pretty. Number 69 Oman Racing with TF Sport car is still on pit lane with Ahmed Al-Hati, but it's the black car of the two. Christian Reed is in the 77 Proton car. Sarah Bovey starts for the Iron Lynx 83. Michael Fassbender, as we say, in the number 93 Proton Porsche. And finally, as we've seen, John Hartshorn in the number 95 Oman Racing with TF Sport Aston Martin. They are the 12 and they're out and running, Johnny.
It is a bronze only session, but that is a change from last year, and I think it is to bring it into line. Well, it definitely does bring it into line with the World Endurance Championship and GTE AM within that, which became a bronze only session last season, I think, for the first time, but always previously in the ELMS. You could choose who you want to throw at the car, and generally we saw the gun drivers, the platinum and the golds, but that is changing, has changed for this season, and therefore extra onus on the bronze-rated driver.
And in many ways, it's a more realistic interpretation, a more realistic example of actually what you can expect to see in the race. Why? Because the reality is pro drivers should be within tenths. When you get into the non-pro professional drivers, that's where the bigger time gaps should start to emerge. So that's what we're going to be looking for in this session and beyond. This, by the way, is a beautiful slow-mo of the number 18 Absolute Racing Porsche. If you look closely at that livery, it's all ducks. Yes, ducks. Cartoon rubber ducks from around the world. Here's our first sight of the new livery for JMW Motorsport with Giacomo Petrobelli. The first time since 2008 that the JMW Motorsport crew have not fielded anything other than a yellow-based livery in the European Le Mans Series. I think we've had one occasion 3 or 4 years ago at Le Mans where they ran with WeatherTech Racing livery, but this is a very different move for the team, and great, by the way, to see Jim McWhirter, the team owner, back at the track after missing for shielding purposes the last couple of years. Welcome back, Jim.
Yes, been a big loss not having him here on site, although he's been glued to all of the coverage and operating remotely effectively, but brilliant to have him on site once again. So red, silver, black with the instantly recognisable visor, though. That's kind of not changed colour or the look of it either. So JMW stamped across that, but a whole load of new sponsors, and that's going to take a bit of recalibrating of the brain for me, anyway, to work out that that is the 66, and being driven in this session by Giacomo Petrobelli, as Graham mentioned. Duncan Cameron goes across the line for Spirit of Race in the 55 car, 156.478. Initial time is only just flowing through now. Sarah Bovey looking like she's going to be the quickest in the first wave of times, though. 155.287 for the Belgian. Iron Lynx, bright pink Ferrari number 83.
Yep, and that's a good time from Sarah. Goes purple again in the next sector, on the first sector of the next lap along. The time for the 66 car, I'm afraid, will be deleted for track limits at turn 11. I expect to see a fair number of those coming along. It's the first occasion on which the number 69 Aston Martin has been misidentified as a 77 Porsche. I bet it's not going to be the last time. It does look, I have to tell you, in real life, this livery on that Aston Martin, absolutely stunning. The black and silver livery for Ahmed Al-Hati.
And yes, Ahmed being the bronze in their driver lineup as well. You must have a bronze, by the way, when you're making up your GTE lineup. So bronze essential. The next choice can only be bronze or silver. Most teams understandably going with a silver choice, and then the final option is entirely up to you. So we've got golds, as in Alessio Picariello. We've also got Mikkel Jensen, gold, Davide Rigon platinum, Jimmy Rooney platinum, Ricard Leeds, Johnny Adam both platinum, but we won't see them until the race. No longer permitted to take part in qualifying.
Sarah Bovey pits the number 83 car, but just as she does so, Christian Ried grabs provisional pole in the number 77 Proton Porsche. 1:55.194, just a smidge under a tenth of a second quicker as they slap new Goodyears on each corner of the number 83 car. Through comes Memo Gidley. Just see how Memo can, he pedals it through and goes quicker immediately. 0.155 of a second. Great to see Memo back into top line international racing. They took a look at his form at Sebring. I think we're going to see quite a lot of Memo. Top line racer before a terrible accident at the Rolex 24 Hours, which kept him out of racing for quite some time, but boy is he back with a bang. Christian Ried down to second, but up on time on this lap so far. So if you can keep this one together, this tricky third sector. It is a blend, this circuit, of just flat out, all out speed, and then this technical third sector, Johnny.
Well, that's the reason why it became a high-tech test track for so many years, still is. A great venue to come testing here in Barcelona, just the other side of the border. So a great collection of circuits that you can utilise out of season, along with within the main championships as well. But yeah, useful mileage that might have been put in here during the winter being drawn upon now for the first competitive race meeting of the season.
Ahmed Al-Hati puts the number 69 Aston Martin onto provisional pole. It's a 1:55.008, 300th second quicker than Memo Gidley. I'm going to have to get my Memos and Memos right, aren't I? It's
Memo Gidley, Memo Rojas, who we'll see later on in the prototypes.
But Ahmed Al-Hati has a great lap from him, 1:55, which sees Aston Martin from Ferrari, from Porsche, all three marks on this grid represented in the top three places at the moment. Gidley back to the top though, and a quarter of a second up. It's a significant improvement from him, a 1:54.755 as we watch the number 55 Spirit of Race car in super slow-mo.
So who is likely to improve? Not quite there yet. Duncan Cameron, who was midfield early on, has dropped down to 10th place in the 55 car, although he's just done his best lap of the session so far, 1:56, and had it deleted. Yeah, that's the issue, isn't it? I think the car's capable of times much better than that, but they need to be legal. Claudio Schiavone for Iron Links in the 60 car, number is 11th rather, so that's the yellow Iron Links Ferrari, and John Hartshorn for Oman Racing with TF Sport, one of two Aston Martins from that crew, number 95 currently 12th.
Ahmed Al-Hati and Christian Ried both on improved lap times at the moment, but not quite enough to get to pole. Sarah Bovey though could be a threat here. She's gone purple first sector, and that time is clearly then up on the pace set by Gidley. So Gidley, Al-Hati, Ried, Bovey, who is going to be on pole position here? And I think this would be, if Sarah Bovey made it, I don't think we've had a pole position from the Armed Dames before.
No, I think I would have remembered that had it happened already, but I will check the archives in due course, or you can do that. Michael Fassbender in the 93 Proton Competition Porsche running in 5th place. 6th fastest for Andrew Haryanto for Absolute Racing in the 18. Another Porsche, but the checkered flag is already out, and the first to receive that is the 57 car guy Ferrari Kessel Racing entry for Takeshi Kimura, so it's going to be no better than 9th position for Kimura. And actually at the end of that lap, Duncan Cameron pits, so no chance of him improving either. Also across the line, for the final time, Jacopo Petrabelli for JMW Motorsport, number 66. And the potential pole sitter, Mimo Gidley, is in the pits as well for Rinaldi Racing.
Well, this is Sarah Bovey crossing the line and goes third, splits Ahmed Al-Hati and Christian Reed, but they're both going quicker. So at the moment, it looks to me as if Christian Reed is still up on the pole time. Wait to see just how quickly he can get down that Mistral straight. Gidley, though, looking good for pole at the moment. Ahmed Al-Hati has not had a good middle sector, but if the Aston Martin can hold it together through this tricky third sector, pole position still, let's find about a 10.5 in this third sector over Gidley's time. Looks to me that it will be only Al-Hati and or Christian Reed that have got a chance. Reed is very close indeed to pole pace, having not set even a quicker sector for the car. He's 12 thousandths of a second off with just the final sector to come. Here's Al-Hati's time, 1:54.909 it was. It's not an improvement, so he's not going to do it. It will be no better than second for Ahmed Al-Hati, but will he be on the front row? What can Christian Reed do?
Doesn't improve, stays at a 1:55.194, so lost quite a bit of time in that final sector, and Christian Reed will stay in 4th position. Fassbender is home and hosed as well in the 93 Porsche, and Absolute Racing, I've mentioned, Andrew Haryanto completes his session in 6th place. So Mimo Gidley it is who bags the first pole position for, well, first pole position full stop for Rinaldi Racing in the GTE competition. And the 32 car wasting no time at all by clinching that by a little over a 10.5.
And lest we miss it, by the way, a good qualifying performance too from Michael Fassbender. He comes out of that 12 car session in 5th place, 1:55.449, under 7/10 of a second off the pole position in the start of his 3rd campaign in the European Le Mans Series, and after a very, very strong finish indeed to the LMS last season. So 1:54.755, just 2 drivers under 1:55, the 2 front row starters in GTE with Mimo Gidley and Ahmed Al-Hati. Sarah Bovey makes it 2 Ferraris in the top 3 before we get to the first Porsche.
Here's the rundown. Rinaldi Racing get their first pole position in the ELMS history then, 1:54.755, courtesy of Mimo Gidley in this bronze-only session, which is a new thing for 2022. Ahmed Al-Hati just missing out in the Oman Racing by TF Sports Aston Martin, number 69, by 0.154 of a second. Then Sarah Bovey for Iron Lynx. Ran it close, but it'll be a second row start for the lady from Brussels, and alongside her will be Christian Reed for Proton Competition at number 77. Then Michael Fassbender also for Proton Competition in the 93, alongside Andrew Haryanto for Absolute Racing. Giacomo Petrabelli for JMW Motorsport starting 7th. Second Rinaldi Racing Ferrari of Christian Hook comes next. Then the Kessel Racing prancing horse of Takeshi Kimura, number 57 ahead of the Spirit of Race car Duncan Cameron. And finally, Claudia Schiavone and John Hartshorn on the final row, 11th and 12th positions for car 60 and 95. So plenty of curb being taken by Mimo Gidley on that qualifying lap. And an awful lot of movement into Virage du L'Hôtel. Corrective steering required and all sorts. But he got the job done. And we will be able to hear from one of Mimo's teammates now, Pierre Eret, who joins Hayley Edmonds for some reaction.
I'm joined here by Pierre Eret, driver of car number 32 for Rinaldi Racing. What a great start to the season. Of course, Mimo getting pole here. How are you, what do you think the challenges are going to be today? Or tomorrow, sorry, for the race.
Tomorrow for me is to start in the front row and hopefully stay there. Our biggest challenge was because Memo was the first time in the car in his life, and this was a new track for him, so he did an awesome job in learning the track quickly and put the car on pole. So hopefully I can carry the torch on forward.
Great, thank you very much, Pierre.
You're welcome.
Pierre Eret, another bronze, in fact. So Mimo Gidley and Pierre, the same driver ranking. They've got Nicola Varoni in the car as well as the silver-rated driver. The one weak spot, you might argue, therefore, is there is no gold or platinum, whereas I think pretty much every other team they're up against has that. Although I look down, in fact, to the other Rinaldi crew, they are two, one bronze and two silvers. So there are a couple of GT driver lineups that do not have necessarily the maximum driver combination, but that all depends on, you know, who's funding the drive and who's looking to go racing at the end of the day. And if they don't want a platinum or a gold, there is no stipulation in the championship to say they must have one.
Absolutely. So you can hear in the background the unmistakable rumble of the 5.6 litre Nissan V8 engines that power every single one of the LMP3s. If you were with us for the show a little earlier for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, you'll have seen a remarkable number of them in that. Here's another 13 to come in a new look grid for the European Le Mans Series. The two cars you're seeing there are actually from the same team. That is the Euro International squad, the 10 and the 11. The 10, those of you that watched the Asia Le Mans Series earlier this year will note that that is an XCD Sport car. They're yet to receive its new livery. That's the car that finished second in the championship to the team car, 1-2 for them. But it's going to be two Euro International cars here. And in fact, that's much the story of much of the grid. Two car entries from United Autosports, RLM Sports, Cool Racing into Europol, Euro International, plus single car entries from Nielsen Racing and a late addition to the grid from 360 Racing gives us 13 cars for the season, 12 of which are Ligier JSP 320s, just a single DKR Engineering run Duquesne, the defending champions, but they'll be defending that championship without the services in the European Le Mans Series. Laurent Treur, he returns to the team's Michelin Le Mans Cup lineup, and I've zero doubt will also be seen in their LMP2 entry. They tried hard to get it here for this season, for the full season. It won't, I'm afraid, make a full season ELMS entry, but it will be seen at Le Mans. This is the number 7 car from Nielsen Racing, and that will be Tony Wells and new teammate for this year, James Littlejohn. That because, of course, Colin Noble, promoted to gold, cannot be a member of a two-car team in these circumstances. 2 cars for United Autosports with new look driver lineups for them too, and that's going to be the order of the day up and down the list. There's going to be some new names to get used to. Sebastian Alvarez, Alexander Bekletsov, and the very rapid Rumpi will be aboard the Luxembourgeois number 4 DKR Engineering car. We've got used to, haven't we, Johnny, hearing the Luxembourg national anthem at these race meetings?
Yeah, I mean, less so in the ELMS, but they've taken victory after victory in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. There was a period of time where DKR Engineering were the only team that had won the Le Mans Cup. Then they made the step up to ELMS and have been competitive at times, but I don't think, you know, often we go into the final race meeting of an ELMS season and we've got 3 or 4 teams jostling for position. DKR were there last season, definitely, but prior to that had sort of struggled to a point. Laurent Treur, after much discussion in Portimão, hours after last year's final race, was finally crowned as the drivers' champion, though, for 2021 by a single point, and did so well to get there. DKR Engineering, with their number 4 car, are defending champions.
Jim Maguire, Kai van Berlo and Andrew Bentley aboard the number 3 United Autosports car. Kai coming fresh from a dominant display in Porsche Carrera Cup North America at Long Beach last weekend, and is driving on the same grid this year. In fact, the car we saw just before that on screen with brother Glenn van Berlo, who'll be part of the Euro International number 10 crew. Great to see fans back. Limited access here this weekend, but you can feel that things are coming back to normal Notice the snack bar in the paddock was open the first time in 3 years.
It's a very small, little things that you miss.
It is little things.
But the thing is, that's been sitting completely vacant, lifeless for a couple of seasons, and just to see people around, ordering food, enjoying the sunshine, is so refreshing.
There's number 11 car in Euro International's traditional deep blue livery. Was told, by the way, the other car, the car we got running as number 10 with the green flag now flying, the 100th car that Antonio Ferrari, the team principal of Euro International, has purchased in his racing life.
Yeah. And amazing to me that Antonio's kept a big old database, a spreadsheet, presumably, with all of those cars listed. He said he's keen to keep all the documents up to date and make sure that he has a personal record of how many cars he's had control of. And that team goes back to 1989.
Yep.
So 100 cars over a 30-plus year period.
Yeah, he used to run Ferrari 333 SPs across in the United States many years.
Yeah.
Let's get used to some of the new sights of LMP3. Looks to me to be the number 6 car, that's 360 racing car from the UK. And in the background there, second of the RLR cars in the traditional Felbermayr colours for Horst Felbermayr. One-time Horst Felbermayr Jr. Sadly now Horst Felbermayr with the passing of his racing father last year. We saw Horst at Portimão last year for a one-off, and mightily impressive he was too. Now back for a full season with the team from Bolton in the UK. Out come both of the United Autosports cars, so we can tell you now who's aboard each of these cars. Finn Gershitz. Now Finn was with Black Falcon, was he not, last year? I think.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Is in the number 2. Kai van Berlo, the number 3. Number 4 from DKR Engineering is Sebastian Alvarez. Alex Capardia in the number 5 RLR M Sport car. And someone's had a big spin. That's the number 11 car. That is Max Cobalt, who's moved over from a season with Nielsen Racing last year. Ross Kaiser in the 360 racing car. James Littlejohn for Nielsen Racing's number 7 car. Glenn van Berlo, so both the van Berlo brothers are out. He's in the number 10 car. Max Cobalt, as we said, the 11 Euro International. 2 Inter-Europol cars, the number 13, Guillaume Oliveira, and Matthias Caprich in the number 14 car. Valentino Catalano in the number 15 RLR M Sport car. And the Cool Racing pair. Maurice Smith still on pit lane, and Antoine Ducin making his ELMS full season debut in their number 27 car, and they've been mighty through testing this week.
You were getting your German teams a little muddled there. Finn Gershitz raced for Phoenix Racing last year. He also did a one-off in the ELMS for Euro International, though, but hasn't gone with that team for this season. In fact, instead signing for the Yorkshire squad, United Autosports. Kay van Berlo, a late change around there, as Graham's described, and both of those cars on out laps. Mo Smith is the rather tardy car off.
Rolling now. Rolling
yes, it is,
yep.
But it's the only one to be joining the session fairly late. Otherwise, everyone was in the queue, I think. Antoine Ducin for Cool Racing and the 27 car well into the session. But it will be a bit longer before we start to see competitive times coming through. Just the one Duquesne up against 12 Ligiers.
Yeah, at the moment Alex Capardia is the paceman here. He's got 2 purple sectors on this first flying lap. So we should see the number 5 going through to take at least provisional pole if he doesn't have dramas in the final sector. Alex, very experienced indeed in LMP2 and LMP3 machinery. Ross Kaiser goes to the top for starters, 151.573, but Alex Capardia takes a second and a half out of that. This Valentino Catalano makes an RLR M Sport 1-2. We've already seen one of those already today.
We have.
In the extraordinary finish for the Ligier European Series race, which saw both the second and third place cars pitting on the final lap and losing podium positions.
Yeah, strange incident for the CTF Performance crew, but we will get to the bottom of that in due course. Valentino Catalano, then the very Italian-sounding German who races with RLR M Sport. along with Austin McCusker and Horst Feldmeier Jr. So he is putting in some decent times in the initial stage of this as well. Capadia tops the session though, with nearly half of it done from Sebastian Alvarez for DKR Engineering, and then Matthias Caprich in the Inter-Europol competition car. But Antoine Ducan, a bit of a star emerging from last year, back for another season, and surely going to be a big favourite for lots of pole positions this season. Cool Racing to the top, number 27.
But by just 13 thousandths of a second, and with Alex Capadia with 2 purple sectors. Third now, Kai van Berlo in the number 3 United Autosports car. So it's the 27 Cool Racing car from the 5 RLRM Sport car from the 3 United Autosports. They're all Ligiers. Then the 4 DKR Engineering Duquesne. They are the top 4.
So Capadia with a chance to reply very shortly indeed. He's in the final sector right now in car 6. He will be, in fact, the next car across the line. So is the crucial clean air going to come to good use here as well for the Brit? He goes to the top by 0.356 of a second. It'll be a longer wait for Ducan, who's only just reached the end of sector 1.
So Ducan, though, does better Capadia's last first sector time and goes purple briefly, because let's not forget the 2 cars that haven't set times yet. One of them is the 17 Cool Racing car. Wasn't Marie Smith, it's Malte Jakobsen, and we expect great things from that young man. Already a winner at Sebring in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship this season with the Sean Creech Motorsport Ligier, and this young man is going to, well, he is a star. He's going to be a bigger star. Moves to his new team of Cool Racing, and at the moment is on track to set provisional pole position if his lap hangs together through a rapid third sector. We'll know in just a few moments.
He's a former F4 Denmark champion, won that 3 years ago, and then kind of strayed away from single-seater racing and into sports cars, and it looks to have been a good move to have already been racing, as Graham's mentioned, at Sebring, the Asian Le Mans Series events, Petit Le Mans. He's already ticked these off and still only 18 years old. 9 thousandths of a second between the top 2 at the moment, waiting for Jakobsen to finish that lap. It's a 1:49.646, plays a 1:49.655, but as we predicted, it's Malte Jakobsen to the top, and he does it by a quarter of a second. It's a 1:49.390. 4 cars at the moment under 150, but Jakobsen has 0.256 of a second over Ducan, who is 9 thousandths ahead of Alex Capadia. There's just 2.5 minutes left. So Ducan is in the middle sector, somewhere on the Mistral straight, but his first sector not good enough for me, 0.8 of a second away from Jakobsen's effort. Then Alex Capadia, who has just set 2 personal best times, but you link them all together, he gets a 1:49.655, which is 4 tenths, nearly 5 tenths. It is 5 tenths slower than Malte Jakobsen, so a bit more for Capadia to find, certainly. The only Duquesne, driven by Sebastian Alvarez for DKR Engineering, remains in 4th place, but the gap from 1st to 4th, just half a second. Still plenty to change in the final couple of minutes, as out of the early corners of the lap goes Matthias Kapcic for Inter-Europol competition, and he's running in 9th, better of the 2 from that Polish squad.
Yeah, Jakobsen going quicker again this time around. That was an improvement from Sebastian Alvarez, now 4 tenths off pole, but that brings him only 4th on this grid at the moment. He's the last of the 4 that are in the 1:49s. Antoine Ducan on a bit of a cool-down lap there, whether or not he's got something more to go again, or whether or not we'll see the 27 car pits from this position. It's Cool Racing 1-2 at the moment, RLRM Sport, DKR United, then the second RLR car, then the second United car, then the first of the 2 Euro International cars. They're the top 8.
As Malte Jakobsen is about to come across the line, and he goes even faster, 1:49.008 to put him well clear of Antoine Ducan's time. That's 0.6 and more quicker than the Frenchman.
It's an ideal example of the 2 choices you get of setup here. Blinding speed, which means you're going to set a very good middle sector time, or set this car up more for handling. That's clearly what they've done with Jakobsen's car. It's gone purple in sectors 1 and 3. Classically, that's what the choice has been made. Not a million miles away from him, though, on this lap is going to be Alex Capadia. He lifted off, though, in the final sector. heavily. He's going to go again for one more crack at this. Jakobsen, though, looking imperious at the moment, 6/10 to the good. That's one hell of a qualifying pace.
Guillaume Oliveira for Inter-Europol competition has done a 48.8, which for more recent laps is right up there. So compare that to the slower final sector of Capadia, which was a 51.2. So an indication of how much Capadia was easing off, probably buying himself some track space so that he can push hard in the closing stages. As the checkered flag comes out, and only one car to cross the line, Max Cobalt so far to see that. Everybody else in live action, but of course if you cross the line now, that will be the end of your session.
Here comes Ducan, we're on board now with the number 2 car, but Antoine Ducan will be the first driver to see the checkered flag after Max Cobalt does so now. There is an improvement from him. It's very marginal, but there is an improvement from him. But behind, Alex Capadia is going very quickly and is on target to actually take pole position if he can put together a good third sector. Cool Racing, Malte Jakobsen crosses the line. That doesn't improve. Next across will be the number 2 car. Here it comes. Currently 4th position, the hand of Finn Gerschitz. Will be no improvement there either. Where is the number 5 car? The answer is in turn 12. He's got the 6 car ahead of him. That's the 360 racing car of Ross Kaiser.
Here comes a 5, Virage du Lac. Virage du Port is the right-hander and he's only got about 32 thousandths of a second to play with here. That's the amount of time that he is up. Can he bag pole position at the death? No, but it is a front row start at least for Alex Capadia in car 5. Volts ahead of Antoine Ducan, who's already crossed the line, so cannot improve. Malte Jakobsen surely safe in pole position with the 149.0, and with that the celebrations commence at Cool Racing.
Excellent stuff from Malte Jakobsen. Good attack there as well from Alex Capadia. But again, look at the sector times. Quickest in the middle sector from Alex. Quickest in the first and the third sectors from Malte Jakobsen. And it's a different approach to the way to attack this track. And we're going to see that through this race as well. Got a cracker to come here in LMP3.
Well, that just shows you how quick these cars can be with chosen drivers for qualifying on single lap pace. What you've got to do now is extrapolate it across 4 hours, and in some cases 3 different drivers. In other cases, well, only one car with the 2 drivers, being Tony Wells and James Littlejohn in the number 7 machine. But otherwise, yes, there are different paces of drivers to think about. There are the 2 mandatory limited pit stops in terms of time limited. You cannot be quicker than them, and the third pit stop being as quick as you like. So many different variables to weave into this tomorrow from 11 o'clock local time. 149.008 will be just enough for Malte Jakobsen by 0.339 of a second to get in pole then for the Swiss squad. Then Alex Capadia, who tried everything he knew about this circuit but just fell short in the second Ligier, but the first for RLR M Sport Car 5. Then it's Antoine Ducan also for Cool, Sebastian Alvarez for DKR Engineering defending champions, Finn Gerschitz for British squad United Autosports, and Valentino Catalano for RLR M Sport. Missed making the point about the Duquesne, the solo Duquesne in the entry. That is the DKR car, 4th position for it. 2 Fontberlos come next. Kai, I should say, in the number 3 car, starting 7th for United Autosports. Then Glenn for Euro International, car number 8. James Littlejohn in the aforementioned Nielsen Racing, number 9 car. Just the 2 drivers assigned to that. Car 7 to start 9th, ahead of Mathias Kapcic and Guillaume Oliveira, the 2 Inter-Europol competition drivers. Ross Kaiser and Max Cobalt will complete the 13-car lineup. How lurid was that slide from Antoine Ducan during the session? But he tidied things up and got himself 3rd place. The number 5 RLR M Sport car of Alex Capadia pushed as hard as he could, but in the end fell short by 0.3 of a second, mainly in that final sector because he was up during the first 2 sectors and had a really good run down the Mistral straight. And again, loads of corrective steering. That seems to be the way that you get a good time this weekend at Paul Ricard, drifting the car around. Well done to Malte Jakobsen. Let's get some reaction now from the team and from Hayley Edmonds.
I think we have to get out of the way. Yeah, I'm joined here by Mike Benham, driver of car number 17, Cool Racing. We're not used to seeing you in this attire. Firstly, yes. Great start, obviously, to your 2022 campaign with Malte getting pole here. What are your thoughts on that? And of course, how's it going for you?
Well, I mean, this has been coming from Malta a long time. Anybody who's been following his career know he's a seriously talented driver. Yeah, I mean, you know, we have a good setup here. We've had a great car underneath us all week, to be honest, and we've just been gently building, and trying to give Malta the tools he needs to do what he's just done. You know, Max, our engineer, has just produced an amazing car, and Malta's really enjoyed working with him. So yeah, it's just great reward for them both, for all the team, and for all the mechanics and everything.
And the third member of the team is, of course, Maurice Smith.
Exactly, the good doctor.
That's always good to have on the team.
Exactly, yeah, it's always fun. Always fun with Mo. Mo and I have been friends in the paddock since he arrived, and we've been talking for many years about racing together. We finally managed to get it together this year, and obviously Malta's here too. It's going to be fun. Great. Well, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you.
So Mikey Benham there, very pleased indeed. Never one not to show his pleasure, Mike Benham. There's Melter coming back to the team. That's Antoine, I think, is it? Never tell. The problem is with Milton Jakobsen, every time we see him, he's put on the button of the half a metre.
Okay.
He's grown up extremely quickly.
He's still growing. It's not 18 years old.
But I was going to point out, we talked about this change and this difference in the way in which the cars are set up. Terminal speeds for the two cars. Milton Jakobsen, 275 kilometres an hour through the speed trap on the Mistral. Alex Capardi, 283 kilometres an hour. That's the difference in terms of the setup, the trim that you can make with these cars, but it's a trade-off and it's a gamble. And pretty clearly in that particular gamble, Milton Jakobsen and Max, his engineer, as we heard from Mikey Benham, have got that one right. I'm sure Alex Capardi will be pleased with his qualifying result, but he was definitely looking for pole. Well, if you thought that was good, that was 13 LMP3 cars. Johnny, we're about to see a spectacular field of 17 LMP2 cars. Another amazing turnout for the European Le Mans Series. By far, with the exception of the Le Mans 24 Hours, the biggest grouping, certainly the biggest full season grouping of P2 cars anywhere in the world, with a more than a smattering of newness about them.
Yeah, well, lots of teams that familiar viewers of the European Le Mans Series they will recognise, but there are the odd addition here and there. Notably, I suppose, top of the shop, number 9, Prima Racing, which is a combination of two teams, but Prima have been one of the big movers and shakers in single-seater racing in European Formula 3 and other single-seater competitions below that as well. But Prima from Italy, it's a big move to get them into the prototype racing and at this level as well, and surely that is a nod to the future as well as being competitive this season as well.
100%. Panis Racing on a bit of a kind of run. Panis Racing took a win last season, made the podium at Le Mans, of course, as well. New look driver squad for them this year, the number 65 car. Expecting big things from them too. It's going to be a mix of the new and the older. New look here for the number 37 car. From Cool Racing, and again a new look driver squad there too. One of our readers asked me last week what to expect from this. Other than fireworks, I'm delighted to say I haven't a clue. I have no clue the way this is all going to pan out. This is the BHK racing car. Took big steps last year, this squad. We're not going to see Augusto Farfus, certainly this weekend. He was promised as part of this effort. EDEX Sports, Patrick Pilet, Paul-Luc Chatin and Paul Lafargue. A familiar-looking trio of drivers in that car, with the car in a new look livery this year. So much new, very distinctive livery on the Nielsen racing car. Their entry into LMP2 for the first time in the ELMS after taking the title in Asia in February. And Ben Hanley, Matt Bell and Rodrigo Sales had a tough start to the week with an incident in testing, but have bounced back well. TDS Racing, welcome back to TDS Racing, to the European Le Mans Series with this effort. TDS Racing by Vaillant, and that of course is a reference to the Michel Vaillant comic strip books of blessed memory, and more and more and more. We've not even mentioned at least 3 brand new entries into this class for the European Le Mans Series. So much to talk about, so much to savour, and we start that with this.
Under 30 seconds to start qualifying for LMP2 cars. Please remind drivers of the need to respect track limits.
But it's really good to have teams that have progressed up the ladder. So we've already mentioned Nielsen Racing, Moulner Motorsport of Belgium making their move into the LMP2 category for the first time. Prema, as I've mentioned too. And then we retain teams like Graf, Inter Europol, Algarve Pro. Too many to mention in a way, but we'll get through them all in the next 10 minutes because that is now live. The session is go, and thanks to Eduardo Freitas counting us down in the background as well. First car out looked to be maybe the Team Turkey, Racing Team Turkey machine. Still run by TF Sport. Still run by TF Sport with some technical support from the Jota outfit. They've got technical staff in at least 3 of these teams. So Sam Hignett and the guys may not be represented with a car on this grid, but some of their technical talent is being put to good use here. So Prema Racing, it'll be Louis Delatraz out there. It will be Ben Viscal in the number 19 Algarve Pro Racing team. That's the only 2-driver crew in LMP2. Moulner Motorsport, Thomas Laurent. Welcome back, Thomas, to European Le Mans Series. EDEC Sport have Patrick Pilet, Reshad Dejeras in the Duquesne team car, Matthias Pesch in the TVS Racing by Viant. Jack Aitken, one of the new stars to the ELMS, will be Racing Team Turkey. Marcus Pommer for BHK. FIA, our reigning champion with his new team, Cool Racing 37. David Drew in the Graf Racing number 40 car. Fabio Scherer for Inter Europol competition with the number 43 car. Gabby Aubry for Team Virage, another new entry into LMP2, the 51. Nico Jamin, quickest in free practice yesterday in the 65 car, and the 88 car will have Ferrari factory driver Nicholas Nielsen. One more to add, Tom Gamble is out on track in the number 22 United Autosports car. Only one P2 car for them this year. We'll wait to see who the 24 Nielsen Racing crew and the 47 Algarve Pro crew are going to field in this session. It takes a long time to work through that list now. Yeah, it does, because, well, it's record-breaking, the amount of LMP2 cars that we have in the ELMS for this season, and a number of these we'll be seeing at Le Mans as well, not as automatic entries, but as their loyalty to this championship. 88 looking very slow, but I think that's more for the Nicholas Nielsen, who's trying to buy himself some track space, because the speed of that car looks very good coming out of Virage Dupont and across the line to commence a quick lap. They are all Oreca 07 Gibsons. The regulations do not stipulate that it has to be that, but the field has rather gone to one end of the scale, if you like, of the 4 different choices, and the Oreca 07 has been the strongest car, both along the very quick stuff like we have here at Mistral, but also in the tight and twisties as well.
Yeah, on board there briefly with Nico Jamin. Moves over from United Autosports to Panis Racing this year. And a new look squad with them. Also out, by the way, into this session, Ben Hanley it is aboard the Nielsen Racing number 9, still waiting for the 47 from Algarve Pro. Should mention, by the way, that we have 7 of the 17 are in the Pro-Am subclass, if you like, with at least 1 bronze driver, and we'll talk about that as and when it kind of comes to the fore. 43 here, same car that ran as the 34 in Sebring for Inter Europol competition, because they haven't yet received their second car for their double program this season. So this car is doing double duty. Next car due, I believe, as late as August at this point. So they're going to have to find a second car for their 2-car entry for Le Mans 24 Hours. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. There are teams out there with spare machinery.
Yes, because depending on what time through August it is, we certainly will have had 3 and possibly 4 ELMS races by that point. So that's far from ideal.
Indeed.
Louis Delatraz competition.
Apologies. Louis Delatraz goes to the top for Prema Racing. Jack Aitken second in the Racing Team Turkey car, which, by the way, is the first of Pro-Am runners. Then Panis Racing, Inter Europol, Algarve Pro's number 19 car, and the Team Virage car. That's the top 6 at the moment. 1:43.4 is the marker, under a tenth of a second back to Jack Aitken from Louis Delatraz in the Prema Racing car.
Good middle sector from Matthias Besch. Is that an indication that TDS Racing have favoured the Mistral Straight rather than the complex sectors 1 and 2? There did seem to be a split between, you know, the approaches that teams were taking in the LMP3 part of the race in that respect. So we'll keep our eyes peeled as to where the cars are finding their time. But Jack Aitken's initial first sector time of 30.3 is very good. He's already in a pretty decent spot in the Racing Team Turkey Pro-Am entry, which just drops a place because it is Yifei now to the top, and now Tom Gamble for United Autosports in the 22 car flies to the top of the order.
I was about to say, at that point at which you started that sentence, no fewer than 9 of those cars that are out there were on a schedule that would beat the current pole position time.
Yeah.
So this is going to change, and it's going to change a lot. 1:43.1 is now the time to beat. It's come from Tom Gamble, an excellent time in the 22 car. And Jack Aitken coming back into the pits.
David Drew for Graf is also on an outlap, as James Allen is too, for 47. Hold your breath, because 2/3 of the field are all about to pour across the line. It is so heavily populated in that third sector of the lap. 21 due back across in a moment, but he will go to the pits. That is Thomas Laurent for Moulner Motorsport. So this seems to be a natural point where cars will pit. They've gone for an initial run, and now wanting another set of Goodyear tyres to just quicken things up, and those tyres will be kept back for the race, but really their peak performance, where you're going to get a potential pole position time, it's kind of gone away already. So time to bolt on some new American rubber and see how you get on in part 2 of the session.
That's not going to be an issue this weekend, but one other change for this season to remind viewers of is there will be only 2 choices of rubber this season. It will be a dry tyre and there will be a wet tyre. No intermediates in LMP2 this season. That is a regulation change discussed with the teams. All about cost saving, all about all the good stuff we're seeing at the moment in terms of the resources that people don't want to be poured into motorsport right now. This is the Moulner Motorsport car, very pretty looking livery, traditional livery for Moulner Motorsport. We're talking to Bernie Moulner last night about the history of the team, and one of the very first teams to move in when Spa-Francorchamps became a permanent circuit.
Yeah.
Here the number 88 car, Nicholas Nielsen. We don't get to see from this side the message around the fuel filler that is directed at Francois Peroda, the man behind this effort, which says, Francois, no diesel, petrol only. That's because, trouble for the number 40 car. So obviously Francois has managed to push that button to stop me telling people what he did. We'll get to that.
David Drew, who is still on an outlap, he hasn't yet crossed the line, but the Graf Racing car is not in a happy place, I sense. The 88, meanwhile, of Nicholas Nielsen heads into the pit lane, and we need to be able to see the other side of the car because of that message around the fuel cap.
Besch to pole for the number 31 TDS Racing by Vion car, and comes in the next time round. It's now 1:43.038. So Matthias Besch is the fuel and tyres, just tyres for the 88 car. I'll tell you while it's here. He managed to wrongly fuel his car. Now that's okay. That's something many people do. Johnny.
He put diesel in it when it's a petrol car.
He put diesel in it.
But what is the car?
It's the 1996 Super GT Championship winning Team Lark McLaren F1.
Oh yeah, that one. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And how much diesel did he put in it?
All the diesel.
All the diesel that's possible to put in.
Yes.
Brimmed to the and then he won't have driven it then after that.
He tried to start it, it wouldn't start. No damage, I gather. And with thanks to Lanzanti Motorsport, of course, of Le Mans winning McLaren heritage. And I would say, I'm not going to use some of the words he used in some of his Instagram posts, but it's fair to say that Francois, the ultimate enthusiast, owned that and has been not proud, but willing to discuss it.
Even with his household pets, I understand, because it wasn't one of the messages that even his dog's laughing at him.
Even his dog is laughing at him, he said in Instagram.
taking it in good part,
Bless your
Francois.
heart.
Well, it's great to have that crew at LMP2 level now, because they've been doing some wonderful stuff, championship winning things in their Ferrari within GTs, and this is a big step.
And started in winning ways at Sebring and the WC. Yeah. And in sharp contrast, by the way, to Europol, this team, the AF Corsa team, have 3 chassis to play with in this, and that came in handy. They had a broken gearbox And trouble there's a car off to the inside, I noticed.
I saw that one as well. I'm trying to work out from the tracker which car has come to grief. The yellow flags will be displayed at senior corner, so the approach to that very fast right-hander. It wasn't on the track, the car in question, just tucked over onto the right-hand side. The 88 is flashing, I notice, on our screen.
I had a feeling it might be the Cool Racing car, which, by the way, FIA lost that time and has not scored a time. It's a red flag. It's a red flag this session.
For this stranded car, we have to assume.
And I think that's it. That's going to be it.
The celebrations have begun already down at TDS by Viant Racing. Matthias Besch was already out of the car, and as soon as he saw the red flag, with only 23 seconds remaining, it is the 40 car, Graham. So it's the Graf Racing car of David Drew, which just has not got going all session.
Oh dear.
And will have no times next to its name. Yifei, who briefly topped the session, had that time deleted subsequently, and the Cool Racing car that did so well in LMP3 qualifying, they will not get a time either, car 37, and likewise James Allen for Algarve Pro Racing. I thought that car would do pretty well from the Pro-Am part of the field. They don't get a time either, but Matthias Besch, what a celebration that was, winning the contest for that little piece of the weekend.
Great news for them when they come back to the LMS. Terrible news for Racing Team Turkey. Jack Aitken was on schedule to take pole position on that lap.
Yeah.
So that will leave us, Johnny, and it started. The car started.
But it's just going nowhere. I mean, he's been working his way round.
Yeah.
And credit to him for the resilience and the persistence to try and get the car fired into life, but it just wasn't to be, and sadly for David Drew, brings the session to an early close.
There's a Pro-Am car on pole, because this is one of our 7 cars. Matthias Besch correctly delighted with that. It's been a tough couple of years for Matthias, but that's clearly put a smile back on his face. A tough couple of years for a lot of people.
Well, true enough, but quite rightly so. And that's not the first time we've had a Pro-Am car on the front of the grid either.
In fact, Racing Team Turkey, been
there before. But it's fascinating to me that actually the 2 cars that were in it towards the end were both from Pro-Am. Shows you that you choose your right driver combination, you can have someone capable of taking an outright pole position. Haley Edmonds has now caught up with a very happy Matthias Besch.
That's right, I'm joined here by Matthias Besch, driver of car number 31 for TDS Racing and Viant. What a great return for Viant, but also to see you in an LMP2 car after such a long time. How was it? How would it go for you?
Yeah, first of all, thank you to the team because they give me a great car, and to my teammates. So big up to them and to the mechanics. You know, it's emotional for me because 12 years ago was my first time with the team, and I put it on pole as well here. And 10 years ago, and now again. So yeah, the competition is really tough. I'm happy, because I've been back in the GTs, and I had a hard period like many pro drivers in the past years. But now I'm back, and I can show people that I'm still on top of the game, and I'm really happy. And but we need to keep pushing. For us, it's we are not aiming for top result. We're just aiming for a progression through the year. So yeah, really delighted.
You're back in the game, Matthias. Thank you very much, and well done.
And Besch is back.
Besch is back.
I like that. He's raced Renault Clios, he's raced KTMs in the last few years, and now he's back in top flight.
And by the way,
LMP2
also the
racing.
owner of a Ligier team in the French One Make Series. So Matthias has kept himself busy, but good to see the smile back, isn't it?
Hashtag Besch is back. I like that.
Needs to be a T-shirt, really, doesn't it?
I think it will rumble on that, for a few more races yet. And TDS Racing are back too with Viant. And their fellow drivers certainly to look out for. Not for the outright victory, but they're entered deliberately in the Pro-Am part of the field. So Tijmen van der Helm of the Netherlands is the silver-rated driver, and Philippe Chimadomo of France. So therefore, same country for Matthias Besch. Sometimes he's Swiss on entry list, but Matthias Besch entered this weekend as French at least, although I think born in Geneva. But Chimadomo, the bronze. And exciting to see how he gets on as well. Confirmation of the times, 1:43.038, good enough. It might not have been had the session run its course, but that we'll never know, I suppose. Tom Gamble, a good time from United Autosports, number 22, second fastest, 1:43.191. Then Louis Delatraz for Prema Racing. Good debut for them. top 3 places. Jack Aitken could have been so much better, but it'll be 4th for Racing Team Turkey, just making his way back into the pits now. Nicolas Jamin and Ben Hanley for Panis and Nielsen Racing, respectively. Then AF Corsa's Nicholas Nielsen in the 88 car. Edex Sport and Patrick Pilet in the number 28 car was 8th fastest, ahead of Fabio Scherer for Inter-Europol competition number 43. And in 10th place, Algarve Pro Racing with Bent Viscal, the Dutchman, starting from 10th spot. Ahead of Team Virage, Gabriel Aubry, Reshat de Guras for Duquesne, Thomas Laurent, Moulin Motorsport, Marcus Pommer for BHK Motorsport, but there were 3 cars that were not able to post times. Cool Racing and Yifei, Graf Racing, David Drew, who brought out the red flag, and James Allen, the Australian, in the other Algarve Pro Racing cars. So presumably they will start on the grid, but at the back of the LMP2 pack.
One would think so.
So there we go, plenty of stories. We had loads of stories before we kicked things off, but now more questions to keep our heads scratching overnight. Join us tomorrow for all the build-up. The first round of the European Le Mans Series in 2022 is go at 11 o'clock tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.